Good evening and welcome to The Strand. I'm Christina, the Director of Events, and I'm so excited to introduce two brilliant fiction writers, Beverly Goligorsky and Elizabeth Strout. Beverly Goligorsky, yes. Thank you. Beverly Goligorsky has been an activist in the women's and peace movement since the 1960s. Her novel, The Things We Do to Make It Home, was a New York Times Notable Book of the Year and a Los Angeles Times Best Fiction selection. She has written for the New York Times, The Nation, Newsweek, and the Los Angeles Times, among other publications. Beverly is here tonight to read selections from her debut novel, a book the New York Times Book Review called stunning, lean and supple, completely persuasive, full of nuanced turns, dead on about how people try to bind and repel each other at the same time. Elizabeth Strout is the author of Abide With Me, a national bestseller and Book Sense pick, and Amy and Isabel, which won the Los Angeles Times Art Seidenbaum Award for First Fiction and the Chicago Tribune Heartland Prize. She's also been a finalist for the PEN/Faulkner Award and the Orange Prize in England. Her short stories have been published in a number of magazines, including The New Yorker and the Oprah magazine. Elizabeth is here tonight to read from her Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, Olive Kittredge, a book the Seattle Post-Intelligencer says lingers in memory like a treasured photograph. Following their presentations, Beverly and Elizabeth would be happy to take your questions. I'll be walking around with this microphone, so please wait for that before you speak. They will then sign copies of their books for you, which you can purchase downstairs on your way out of the store. Please join me in welcoming Beverly Goligorsky and Elizabeth Strout to the Strand.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. This book was originally published almost a decade ago, and it's been reissued because the damage of wars continues today, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the kind of damage that's brought home, whether it's brought home from the mud in Vietnam or the sand in Iraq, is very similar to the families at home. I'm going to skip around and read some short pieces. In this particular section, Ida and Frankie has decided he needs to go back to Vietnam. Ida, his longtime girlfriend, who is a nurse, has woken up that morning and decided she's going with him, but he doesn't know she's made that decision. Ida watches for Frankie from the second-floor window. The street lamps are on, and across the wide avenue she can just see the entrance to the Bronx Zoo. Except for the occasional rumble of a passing truck, it's quiet. The room is small, neat, square, the bedspread beige, the headboard beige, the walls a creamy pink, none of it the least bit cheery. But it's a place to be without the others, and no matter what he says, it's easier for him not to drive out to her house. That's what she wants to do, make everything easy. It's why she lifted the mat of lamb's wool from the hospital, so he could take it with him. The heat there will dry out his skin even more. She'll pack it, make sure he sleeps on it. She squirms into the tan chair of make-believe leather, anxious for him to arrive, nervous about telling him her decision. A drink would help, but she'll wait for him. The Jack Daniels in her bag, the styrofoam bucket filled with ice, and she's already set the glasses on the dresser. She can see them twice, once in the mirror. It's bad luck to drink alone. Frankie, where are you? She says it aloud, and goes again to the window that overlooks the parking area. Only 20 minutes late. That's not unusual. Still, she's been waiting all day to share her decision. The white Toyota takes a sharp turn into the lot, pulling quickly into a space. She hears the music stop abruptly. The lights go off, and joy rises inside her. He sees her, calls up, "Dangerous neighborhood." Shh, her fingers to her lips. A bear walked right down Southern Boulevard. Sliding away, she wonders how many he's had. She unrolls the cylinder of lamb's wool onto the bed, hurries to make the 2 drinks, greets him at the door, the glass in her hand. He kisses her lips, takes the drink. Isn't this a little extravagant? He looks around. Extravagant would have room service. She pushes him gently into the chair, sits on its arm, removes his cap, feels the fuzz of new hair, remembers the funny potato plant that sprouted grass when placed in water. It's coming back, your hair. Just like you said, once the treatments ended. They didn't end, Frankie. You stopped them. Baby, who wants to spend a short life waiting in clinics? Besides, I'm into alternatives. I drink seaweed, and I believe in the ancient art of healing. And what's that? The laying on of your hands. He runs a finger along the outside of her strong thigh, feels her muscles tense. She slips off the chair arm. They need to talk first. Okay, I'll give you hands, she says, dragging the lamb's wool onto the floor. Belly down, I'll massage your back. What's this? Magic carpet. Tell him now, she thinks, tell him now. And kneels, watching him slowly unbutton his shirt, remembering the once heavy shoulders, the thick braids of muscles in his forearms, skin that coppered easily, now kept hidden from the sun, lest it dry and crack and be even sore to the softest touch. At work, her patients are members of other people's families. She dutifully charts their losses. Less appetite, less output, less energy. How else to remember? With Frankie, she can't forget. She rubs the nap of the lamb's wool in which she'd like to safely wrap him. Shit, Frankie. He too kneels. He takes her hands. Shit, she repeats. Yeah, baby, friend, lover, jewel, all there in that wonderful body of yours that I can't even fuck properly. Shh, stop. I'm sorry. I planned to be upbeat. It's the truth, Ida. She makes herself smile. He sees nothing gay in her eyes. I don't make you laugh anymore, do I? You? A sense of humor? Since when? She kisses his lips. I don't feel like laughing. I don't even want to. She takes the moisture cream from her bag, tips the pink lotion into the cup of her palm. Tell him now, she thinks. Tell him now. He lies, his face on crossed arms, the soft, furry rug under his belly. I stopped taking the damn night pills, and now my dreams have music. Has that ever happened to you? I don't think so. She smooths the lotion across his back. If it were her body, she'd take the treatments, swallow the pills, follow each directive, fight for every minute more it bought her. Yet a few hours of music in his head makes him happy. God, it's why she loves him, isn't it? She slides the lotion down toward his waist, up onto his shoulder blades, along the sides of his neck. The cool, minty smell reminds him of the VA hospital, the supply closet where some of the guys and he would hole up to have a few drinks before each infusion. It's great, baby. Now, she thinks, now, tell him now, her palm flat on his vertebrae. I'm going with you to Vietnam. He rolls over, props himself on his elbows. I'm coming with you, Frankie. You can't. I can. What do you plan to do there, Ida? Visit the mall? Take a walk in the mud? Don't go nuts on me, please. Not now. Rub a little more of that magic into my skin. He rolls back over. I'll volunteer at one of the hospitals. A nurse can always get a job. I've thought it all out. She wipes her wet palms. No, Ida. You can show me that moon, honey, the one that hangs between those mountains so orange it breaks your eyeballs. Remember? Frankie, I don't want to be here as long as you're somewhere else that I can be too. Don't you want me with you? Not there. It's dangerous. He sits up, facing her. The war's over, Frankie. People go there on vacation. Not me. I know. Good. End of discussion, Ida. Don't get angry at me. I love you. It's only time, Ida. I'll be back. He won't. She knows it. He knows it. You don't return from there twice. Consider the idea, Frankie? I have. It's wrong. I don't want you there alone, having to deal with any shit that might happen to me. I don't want a nurse. He gets up, pours himself a refill. A nurse? Is that who I am? That's what you'll end up being, a nurse, my nurse. It's not the way I see it. How do you see it, Frankie? Beautiful goodbyes. No blood,